Yeah, I mean, yeah, you come up close if you want. You know, take a look. This is what everybody usually likes to take pictures of at the end of the show.
You know, it's funny, like every time I see one of these on stage, even though I've been using this shit for like 10, 15 years, whatever, I still don't care what everybody's using, really. Because like you could look at this stuff, you know, we can go through everything listed down and how it's patched, but then the knobs are a different value too. Yeah. So it's just like, I just see a mess, I'm just like, oh, that's a modular.
It's a modular.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know what you're doing. Because everybody has a different intention.
That's what's great about it. Yeah. Everybody's approach is different, and how they use this stuff is completely different. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's will be a good segue to like how we get, like me and Surachai got into it. I've been, modular for me is not really a new concept. It's actually a very old concept for me. I got into modular synthesizers, I guess the first modular synth I bought was an ARP 2600. And I was 17 years old. I was in high school when I bought it. And that changed everything for me. It being one of the first synthesizers I was able to get my hands on, it was a semi-patchable synthesizer, 66 patch points. You had some, I mean, for those of you who are familiar with the 2600, you have the faders where you can fade in different combinations, the oscillators modulation. You've got spring reverb, envelope generator, lag processors, ring modulator, noise generator. So to get that as one of my first synthesizers, it was a great basic foundational synth to learn on. So, you know, I would pretty much sit in my parents' garage and trip acid for hours and play on the 2600. So, I mean, that's honestly what I did. That's how I learned. And it was a great way to learn about basic sound design, like sound design in the most basic sense of sound shaping, you know, intermodulation between oscillators, what's FM synthesis, amplitude modulation, what's amplitude modulation, how to use an envelope generator, you know, these simple concepts to me at the time that I was just learning on was a great sort of synthesizer to learn all the basic fundamentals. And from that point, I started to buy other synthesizers because that was, I want to say in their early 90s. And where I lived in Atlanta, during that time, a lot of the studios were unloading a lot of the old analog stuff at the time, so I was able to buy things super cheap. Like I bought that 2600 for $250. I didn't even know what it was at the pawn shop, you know. And so I bought some crazy things, and then I started calling colleges at the time because the universities were starting to sell a lot of their older modular systems. So I was able to get like the Electrocomp, EML 101, the 100 series. I got an ARP 2500 left wing cabinet, which was the bigger, kind of like big wooden case. You could sit on it. It was like a chair in my room. And then from there, I got into, let me see, the EMS Synthy was after that. I had the Synthy ACAS. And then, oh yeah, you're going to start triggering stuff from that point. But yeah, so it was, those were the synths that I learned on. So I would buy something, I would learn it, study it, and then I would move to the next thing. And then there would be synths I'd hold on to, and then I'd, you know, that's basically what I did. It was just kind of like buy, learn, and then where the Eurorack thing came in was many, many, many years later. I still held on to all my analog stuff. And it was a good friend of mine named Josh Kay, who we were running a record label with back in the day called Schematic Records. Josh had decided to take the plunge and buy a Dofer system, who you guys are familiar with, Dieter Dofer's work. Him being a German manufacturer, and at the time, I don't remember how many years ago this was.
Yeah. Josh reached out to me on the Muffwigler forums, like.
What year was that?
2005 or 4, something.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was no information about any of this stuff, and there was only 2 brands back then. It was only
Analog Solutions.
This one and Dofer.
Dofer, yeah. There wasn't any of this stuff out at the time.
Right, and he was like, "Which way do I go?" And I'm like, I don't know the answer to that, but I went Dofer because there's information about it at analoghaven.com, and I bought a pre-made system, which I would never recommend anybody do, but it was just like there's no information, there's no options, and it was expensive to get into it, obviously, so I just gambled, and I found what I liked in that, and then I would start recommending things to Josh, and I had already known you. So it's like this weird triangle.
There's a weird triangle connection.
And then I got in touch with you. But yeah, that's when things started. There was only 2 companies, and one of them wasn't really compatible power-wise.
Yeah. Analog Solutions, we were
Right.
using a couple of their modules that used different power at the time in the Dofer cases.
I don't even know how many manufacturers are now, but that's where we started out, and then it's just spiraled
It
out.
exploded. Yeah, we didn't know. Like, for all of us, like, you know, we're friends with Tony. Like, me and Josh knew Tony before when he was
Right.
working at Moog before he started Make Noise, and then we started making friends with him. And then
I
Tony
knew Harvestman before he was Harvestman. So back in the day, it was a lot of trial and error. There was no stores like this.
Yeah,
There was
we
no
didn't have
panels
anything like this.
Even information on the internet was written by Dieter Dofer, so it was just like very scientific. You know,
his
having
booklets that had all them.
There's no artistic approaches to things. So
Yeah.
it was just like artists trying to talk to each other about these like
And
tools.
figure it out.
Yeah. And lots of mistakes, lots of dead ends. So like the information is all out there now for all this crap. So very lucky. But the other edge of the sword is that there's too much. You know, you can
Yes.
take even more wrong
Turns.
into things and get very lost because there's not a dead end. There's so many options for everything now.
Yeah, and there was no digital hardly back then. There was like maybe like 3 or 2 different digital modules back then. Now it's like, I look at my when I first started, it was all analog. Now I look at my case, it's like all digital pretty much.
You basically have 50 little computers.
Little mini computers in here, yeah. So things have changed a lot from that point. But it was interesting coming from that time where we were like reading or we were still like reading magazines and stuff. There wasn't much of an online presence. Muff Wiggler started.
Right.
And we started to seek out information about these systems. And I think the appeal I know it was for Josh and then for Surachai, it was the first time that we could build our own system. We could we could order to spec, like get an empty case and then be like, what do we want to do? You really had to think about what you wanted to do, and then you built this.
Right. That's the thing.
It's customized system, and
whenever people talk about their systems or like asking for recommendations and stuff like that, it's not, you can't just blurt out things. You have to be like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
You know, you have to find out about the person. It's just like, you can recommend things all day, but it's just like, you go to a restaurant, you order for someone, you know, it's like, it's very assuming. You don't do that. It's just like, you're trying to make music, you're trying to make sound, you're trying to make noise. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And there's the same answer in different manufacturers. You know, you're like, this oscillator or this filter.
Yeah.
So, you know, people come up to me all the time. It's like, hey, what are you using? I'm like, I'm using things that I want to use. What are you using? Like, what are you trying to make? The answer is not finite, you know?
Yeah. There's no right or, I always tell people there's no right or wrong way to go at it. It's whatever your own artistic path is, whatever that may be. The artistic vision that you have is the most important thing at the end of the day. What sort of sonic picture you want to paint for people to experience is.
See, you're an optimist.
Yeah.
You say there's no right or wrong. I say there's a lot of wrong answers, not too many right ones.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could go. I mean, if money and there's budget limitations and stuff. I mean, there's different ways of looking at it, I guess, you know. But I mean, for me, like, I like using things wrong, and you know, misusing technology is sometimes a really cool thing. You sometimes get really cool results that way, but not everyone's.
Right.
Not everyone's end result is what I want to do. You know?
Dude, definitely, for sure.
So,
so when I see people taking pictures of your thing, I'm just like, what do they want from that? Like, do you want to be Richard Devine? It's like, that's not happening, man. Like, you're not going to be this organized, you know?
And even this is messy for me right now,
yeah.
even from just touring and stuff. But
anyways,
yeah.
Back to the beginning, it was just like, it started out with Dofer, then it branched out to like
Mike Brown, Livewire, when Plan B, when Peter and I met Mike and Peter, they started the Ear Acoustic, it was originally called when we first got their modules.
Ear Acoustic.
That was like the first third-party Eurorack manufacturer to make a module in the Eurorack format. That was an American manufacturer, so we were like, that's interesting that they're taking Dieter Dofer's format and they're making their own design.
Right, that was something so new.
It was new for us. We're like, this is strange,
Yeah.
because we had all Dofer systems at the time, and it was kind of a weird thing at first, like, there's somebody making another module for this format. And then
there's like Tip Top Audio, and then Make Noise, and then Harvestman, and then I kind of lost touch after that. I was just like, okay, there's too many things. But it started out small, and we for a very long time, for several years, I think you and I had a good grasp of everything that was out, right?
Totally.
Like, we knew exactly the world of it, and then I think
it grew bigger than us.
If you like don't look at the internet for like a week, you're lost. You're gone.
Yeah.
Like this stuff moves at a rate of like And I like it, honestly. I think it's cool. I mean, there's a lot to sift through, but when the gem comes out, it's like, whoa, these people are thinking, you know?
Yeah. There's some really brilliant minds and people behind some of the stuff that's happening right now. I feel that it's like, I look at this as the wild, wild west of instrument design. So you have like lots of innovation happening. You know, you've got people who work specifically with analog circuitry who are really good electrical engineers, and then you have people that are like just amazing coders, like Olivier from Mutable Instruments, where they have like more of an open source sort of mentality. And you have all these sort of different approaches and personalities and technologies, and now the microprocessors that are coming out and some of these digital modules are getting so powerful. You know, we're running at higher sampling rates. We're able to do these very complex things like granular, you know, synthesis and convolution and things that were, you know, hard to do in a personal computer. Now we're able to do these in these little modules with control voltage capabilities and stuff. So it's opening this world of possibilities that even I didn't have before, because it's a lot more exciting to interface with this than with a mouse.
Oh, dude.
Doing single point manipulation, you know, so you get much more immediate feedback with the system. So I think now's a very exciting time where the level of the technology is catching up with this interactively fun, you know, environment to play with. So it's exciting, you know, for an exciting time to get into this if this is what you want.
Right. That's the thing. Everybody's getting into it, but it's not everybody's thing.
Yeah.
You know, I see a few people forcing their hand in it, and like they're forcing their workflow around it, and you know, if it works, fucking more power to you, but it's not the end all answer. It's not even an answer. It's like just another door. Essentially, you can do everything on a computer with this stuff. It's just like, I think what you're paying for or what you are putting yourself in front of is interface. And the way modules and the way you set things up is like a structure that pulls you in a direction, right? So if like you make something from left to right, or you put things fucking randomly, it forces you to think differently. Whereas if you open software, I mean, depending on what you're using, it's just like, here you go, and then there's presets, you know? So this is more, I think, an experiential physical thing, and then you're just like, you're scanning and you're touching, and
it's like an experiment every time.
Right, yeah. And things can go wrong for sure.
And sonic accidents, you know, things that...
But I think that's where, that's what I get out of it. It's like a physical thing where it forces you to do things, because the architecture of it guides you rather than you telling it what to do. You know, it's like things are in an order, or like what if the order is chaos, it's still, that's an order of that. So true. I think I'm drawn to its flow, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Because you could probably have the same arrangement on a screen, right? Mm-hmm. And you would just not do the same shit. You know?
Absolutely.
Even if you're reaching your fat finger and you touch another knob and you're like, oh, you know, like that accident leads to good and bad things, but it leads you somewhere. It
leads you somewhere, exactly. Yeah. And the other thing about it's just like you're making music with like electricity, so everything's very organic and it's imperfect every time. That's what I love about it. Like every show that I've played on this, you know, with this setup, it's like I tell myself, it's like you don't have to like play it perfect, because there's only going to be one performance it's ever going to be like this.
You know, a lot of the time, every time you're done playing and I play after you, you always go, oh, I fucked up. And I'm like, Richard, I bet you $1,000 no one noticed. Your whole thing sounds like a failure of like technology.
It's like, like stumbling.
I swear to God. Totally. Like, oh, but that one, I'm like, there's no one part to your shit. Your shit is all like crumbling.
It's all like, it's like a old creaking ship falling like, apart into the ocean.
No one noticed. It's just genius madness.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, but that's the beauty of it, is like you just have to let go of like, you let go of perfection, because in a computer you get in this mindset where you can perfect every second. Right. You can perfect how everything evolves every second. You can automate. You can do whatever you want in the computer. Everything can happen exactly the way you want it. You can master it exactly the way you want it. But with this system, you kind of have to like, you let go of a lot of things.
We were talking about that a lot today. It was just like a lot of software, there's a lot of intention. Like you gotta click this and turn that, and like here, like you can kind of set things up and then let it go and come back 3 hours later and it's completely different, depending on like, you know, the rate of things. But like yeah, there's a, I don't know, there's an energy to it that is not in software, because software is like, depending on what you're using, it's like really intentional.
Yeah.
Like you're going for something. Here's like you can end up somewhere.
Yeah.
But you know, that random button in software is pretty cool too. So.
Yeah. But it's funny when you mention intentions. Like I've sat down a million times, you know, one night, you know, any given night in my studio, and I'm like, I have some clear idea of what I want to do on the modular. I start doing it, then something happens by accident, and I'm like, oh, that's way cooler than what I was trying to do. Yeah. And then I just focus on that. So it can sometimes deter you down a different, you know, into a different road, or to a, you know, it can be distracting too, but in a good way, like a good distraction, a creative distraction, because it's so spontaneous.
I think that's something unique to modular too, because when you do that, when you call it a distraction, I think it's like expanding your vocabulary of sounds, right?
Totally.
So like when you fuck up, it's just like you're kind of keeping that in your mind of just like, how did I get there? How do I get it back?
Get back
All
to
right,
it.
let's move on to something else. Yeah. And then like when you're patching something, you're like, how did I do that thing? And you go back to it. So yeah, it's just interesting how you can end up in situations like that, where software is just like you're just clicking and dragging things,
and you can recall things.
Yeah, very easily.
As you can see, like this is kind of a rough idea of how I recall things.
Yeah, patch
you know,
memory.
I mean, there's no, you know, I mean, as you guys know, there's not really many presets and stuff. So when
you know what's funny? Now that you're showing me this now, I remember when we first started playing. This was a lot. It was a packet.
Oh, it was a packet of
with
notes,
like a paper thing. And
paper clip.
Yeah, just going through it, I'm like, dude, you're doing homework.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's because with this sort of thing, you know, when you get into something, it's so easy to get lost.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have to purposely make outline notes to make sure that. And what I do is like, I don't know if you guys saw me last night when I was playing. I have my phone on the table and I have a timer, so I count down from 59 minutes. If they tell me I have an hour to play, then I'm like, all right, we've got 59 minutes. So what I do is I have these little mental notes where I set up all my settings for kind of like each song, like when I load different parts of a song, and then I kind of like feel out what maybe 5 or 6 minutes will be. So I'm always looking at the counter, counting down, because this stuff is always running.
Right.
So like, yeah, you can start a sequence and stuff, but then you kind of have to figure out, all right, I have to figure out when I'm going to shut this down to move on to the next part, or it just keeps on going.
Or I'm behind you on my back kicking
you. You were kicking me. It's like Rich, you got to finish up.
You're done. Alessandro wants to go.
He wants to go, yeah, because you could literally play for hours on this song. So I have to like make notes for myself to kind of structure things. Remember to keep some sort of, I mean, I know probably last night the people that you were there were probably like, there's structure? That sounded pretty chaotic to me, but in my own crazy sense, I try to have some sort of order to where I divide the time up, so you're not listening to the same thing for 30 minutes.
See, you're a professional though. Like,
oh, I don't know about that.
No, for sure. I mean, like, you're doing things that people are not going to figure out for another like 10 years, and like not even approach. Because like, dude, I've watched your live setup shift dramatically. It used to be huge, first off. Now this is compact. I mean, it's a pain to travel with you because I gotta carry your shit. But it's like really small now, and
I've been trying to go
dude,
smaller.
You could do an hour set of nothing repeating.
Yeah, that was my goal. Yeah.
Insane vocabulary with this. Like, it's fucking so impressive. If you ever get a chance to see this dude live and like want to quit using the modular live, which actually that might be a big reason of why I stopped. Because I was just like, okay, he's doing something. Not that I'm trying to do what you're doing, but I was just like, the way you shift from songs and like the whole timbre of the thing switches. You know, like when you're doing a modular set with the analog stuff, especially, it's just like you're gonna get a really similar sounding thing for your whole thing,
your whole set.
So unless you're using things that can completely change banks and things like that, you're gonna get a 30-minute song.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much.
And it was funny because it wasn't until this year that I was able to do exactly what you're talking about,
Right. And then when I learned what you were doing, which is menu diving and pages, I was like, nah, I'll find another way to do it. But yeah, if you put dedication into it.
Yeah, if you put the time in, you get, if that's what you seek.
Right, if that's what you want.
the result is what you're looking for. Because I was trying to get around a lot of these problems things that I was doing in the computer. Is like, well, I could do it in the computer. How would I do it with the modular? How would I do these things if I just had these set of tools? And I feel like limitations like this enforces more creativity. I like working with a...
Right. And there's people doing it analog that do it really well too, which is like a 30-minute song, which is incredible, like Rob Lowe.
Or Colin Benders, like Colin's another friend.
Sick, for sure.
Who's a very big system.
Right. Right. You need the big system.
His system's even getting bigger. I was just in Holland a week ago, and I saw his new system that he's building. That's
right.
It's insane. Yeah, I don't know how he's going to travel with it. I'm like told Colin, I'm trying to go smaller. I actually want to go smaller than this. I would like to just use a 6U case instead of 12U in a skiff, because this is a pain to bring on an airplane. But things are getting smaller. Like some of the modules that I've been using for a while are now getting into these micro versions, these 8 HP versions and stuff. So it's, it's getting there. I think eventually one day I'll be able to walk on an airplane with just a 6U case.
You're dreaming, man. Dreamer.
I am dreaming. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. See, there's trade-offs. There's a lot of things you have to give up and sacrifices and stuff. And then, just like Surachai said, like this setup changes constantly, and it's this is never like I think I update my system on Modular Grid quite a bit, but even then, I change stuff almost week by week. There's new modules I'm constantly trying out and testing and seeing if I can do something a better way, and then so it's like a combination of old things I'm trying to let go of, new things I'm bringing in and trying to incorporate, and so, like Surachai said, it's this never-ending project that's never going to stop. And there's always new things that are going to help you improve the way you do things, or allow you to do things you couldn't do before, which has been a big thing for me this year, because I've really, really wanted a voltage-controlled sampler. And there had been a couple options that hit the market. Like I was using I had the old ADAC way players here, the 101s. Basically had every sampler there was on the market, but they really weren't geared towards live performance oriented stuff. And then the introduction of the ER301 that's over here, and then Dan's new 4MS, the stereo triggered sampler just came out, which did some samples for it. Did you do some, or was it Rob? Rob did some samples.
I did not, yeah.
You did not. So these are relatively new for me, and I love samplers. The reason why I like samplers is because I can bring a lot more of my own sonic voice into this, rather than just being restricted to the the modular voices, which I really love. I love what I have here. You can see that I'm using a combination of a lot of the same stuff that you guys probably use. There's not a whole lot of stuff in here that's, in my opinion, that's really fancy. I'm using 3 Mutable Instruments braids, micro braids. I've got a Clouds, the new U-Burst, which my friend Ralph at Michigan Synthworks has been doing, the Magpie modular. If you guys know my friend Chris Northern, their whole crew, this is one of the first 8 HP versions of Clouds that they've, I think it's going to be released as a DIY kit. So it's all, I'm not really using...
Hi, there's no mystery.
There's really no mystery. Yeah, I'm using...
But that's the thing with modules too. It's like, it's all factory, right? Yeah. But it's the user.
Totally.
You're a psychopath, so
yeah, exactly.
It's just
it's my demented brain
that
there's something wrong with. It's not this. It's my brain that's.
I mean,
weird.
You give this to anybody, and it's never going to sound the same for anybody, which is cool. It's not going to sound the same for me and you and all these other people, and we're all going to get different things, and this is just what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I just tell people all the time. It's like you have a blank sheet of paper, and this is basically just a pencil. Yeah. You're drawing a picture. Mm-hmm. That's all you're really doing, Right. I don't think it's...
What is your picture?
Yeah, what's the picture you want to paint?
No, I'm asking you, what picture are you drawing?
H.R. Geiger meets Alien versus Predator. That's usually what comes up.
Okay.
My wife always calls my music insects gnawing on metal. I was like... That's a good description. Yeah.
She should be a reviewer.
She's pretty good, yeah. That's usually where my brain, for some reason, I don't know why it likes to go in those places, but that's just where it goes.
You know what's funny, dude? Okay, so we compared in-ear monitors.
Okay.
Your ear canal is really small.
Small, yeah.
That's why you're always using those really high frequencies. Like, this is totally theoretical.
We should study ear canal widths of people. That's probably changes the frequencies they're able to hear and things they do. I
think this can be totally wrong, but I think
I like this observation though.
I know, because we were looking at this shit. I'm like, I'll be fucking PC. So I was just like, my hole is a lot bigger than yours. All right. And like, so this is why a lot of your music is like not shrill, but it centers around a lot of like high frequency information.
Oh, for sure.
And like
I like the hi-fi.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely.
Well, not hi-fi, but like
oh, it's
high.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's up there.
It's up there, like high frequency stuff.
Yeah.
Like squealing and metal.
Yeah, 8K,
screeching.
4K.
Yep.
Yeah, I love
Usually
that
people
area.
like
insect
people
range.
pull away from that have normal holes. I think. But that's what I noticed. I was just like, we were looking at this. I'm like, this is explaining a lot. I was just like looking at it, and like my brain was like decoding information of like your music versus mine.
I looked at Josh's in-ears too,
Yeah.
and his were bigger than mine too. Because when he mixes his music is more subtle. It's not like
It doesn't have that shrill.
it doesn't
high.
have the like super like
Yeah, Phoenicia's just like really chill, and you can listen to it for hours.
hours. Yeah,
Your stuff is like
it's a
bursts.
workout.
Yeah, it's a workout.
It's a workout. Yeah, you have to take a
Interesting.
break at some
Yeah.
point if you want. But I've been doing some chill stuff too lately. That's definitely
Dad
non-existent.
IDM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Dad IDM. Exactly.
Maybe some examples,
Of which one? Of the
sound examples.
sound examples.
You want to hear some shit?
Here's some stuff. Yeah.
Show them that kick drum,
Let's see
because
here.
that's something you can't buy.
Well,
That's
I
something
mean,
you gotta make.
I didn't really have much time to prepare anything, but I mean, I can just, I can run through it. So last night, this is my sequencing rig right here, which is, it's basically a circadian rhythm that's running a custom firmware that Chris Klepper from Tip Top wrote for me that adds probability-based things. We released it to the public, called it the Devine firmware. And you basically get to global mode, and then you hit D, and then there's like 3 levels of randomization that you could add. There's like a coin toss mode. There's the mode that I have it running in right now is it's in a selected pattern group that you have here. It'll play a random pattern in that group, so it's never playing the same pattern. So my bass patterns are always changing. They're kind of based around a similar thing, but then from there you can see that I'm running out into these 2 skip mittens. And what these are actually probability-based removers. So I can take away the incoming gates and create polyrhythms from the circadian rhythms. So I'm always able to, any kind of quick, combination, create different patterns. Let me see if I can just... So from here, so if I turn them all the way to the right, you're going to get a pattern that's going to allow 90% the pattern to play at 100%. And then I start just turning things. So right away, you can instantly get sort of these different things happening. You can totally mute, and I set this up so I can perform and really manipulate the rhythms right on the fly. So not only that, I'm really into taking stuff away, but I'm also into adding. So from directly from going out of that, I'm going into these burst generators. So I can also multiply. So for like the kick drum, so you could do, for any of the. So you have this combination of, probability-based removal and also burst generation. So I like having the combination. So what I do is I have a mult here. I didn't hook up all my cables to it though, but what I'll do is I have a nanoran, which is being clocked by my sequencer right here, that's sending a sample and hold out into this mult. And what I usually do is I'll mult plugs into the pulse input and to the rate input. So you get these sort of stepped changing values that sometimes happen on time and then off time. So you get these iterations that like stutter in and stutter out. So last night you guys were probably hearing rhythms that sounded like this cacophony of stuff that was like in time and then off time. So I was doing a lot of that with this. And then I take that and I run the output of the Nord into basically this compressor right here. It's the WMD compressor, which is really great for when I play out live. I love having just that extra beefy, loud punchiness that sounds really great. This compressor is really great for that. It's also got sidechain capabilities and stuff. And then I run the output of that into a phonogene. You can see here. This is the old original phonogene that Tony had made. This is actually also running a custom firmware that Tom Erb kind of tweaked for me for live performance, especially for cutting up rhythms and stuff. So it kind of adds this extra layer of glitchy cut-upness to the signal path, and then from there I mult the signal out and do further processing. So I mult that output into, one output is going into the shapeshifter, the Rainmaker,
You see the same pic right there on that little
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't realize that. No, okay. Well, so here in the Rainmaker, I run one of the outputs going into this. So I'm doing more sort of like delayed processing, and then I have another output that's running into this clouds. So basically, I'm, processing the sound 3 different ways. So you get this multi-layered, crazy, I don't know how to describe it, sort of sound. So it sounds really organic. Nothing kind of. Let me see if I can. So you can. Kind of get this, it's very glitchy and processed, and then I have an extra layer so you can hear the drums are being triggered by the Nord here. So I have this other thing that Olivier from Mutable Instruments made called the Midi Pal. So if I turn this on, so what's this doing is I have a MIDI to CV converter by MST that's running a MIDI time clocked out. Let me see if this is kind of crazy. It'll just keep going nuts. So I'm running a MIDI. I've got my master clock clocking the MST here, which is taking a MIDI output. And then I'm running into this thing called the Midi Pal, which is made by Mutable Instruments. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not. Olivier stopped making these for whatever reason. I don't know why, but these are really cool if you can get your hands on one. There's another company that's making these called the Midi Gal. And so it's about like 30 to 40 different MIDI functions. You can use it as a step sequencer, a MIDI randomizer. It does a lot of really cool things. So what I'm using it for here is the modulars clocking the MST, going into this, takes the MIDI time clock, and I'm running in what this mode's called CC Lfo mode. So there's 4 LFOs in here that are being clocked by my modular, and then I assign 4 CC LFO values into here. So I have a sheet that I don't even know if I brought it with me. I think I did, or did I leave it at home? So I had a list of the CC values of some of the most interesting, like you could do like, timbre decay or FM, things to get things sounding more organic, I guess. So if I can unmute this, so you can. Oh, let's see, why is it? Let me bring this. So what it does is it's changing like the decay time and the pitch decay and things. So it's adding a lot more variation to the drum synthesis, and rather than it just being kind of a stagnant sound over and over that you're hearing. So I'm sort of like processing each part of the entire process, right down to the way the sounds are being processing and automated. And I was also doing another thing. I actually just switched out because I've been testing out the new disting but I was using a module by ALM Busy Circuits. And I was doing voltage control expression input changes to the H9. What was the module called? It's the ALM.
Oh, right.
What's it called? It's a 4 HP module. And what's great about it is before I had this module and I was using that module with this, and then on my iPad editor, I run all these presets that I have with this, and then I was doing voltage-controlled automation changes to the H9 pedal via my modular, which is really neat, because in the editor, the H9 editor, you can set all the parameter changes for, whatever patch you're running, and then you just step to the next preset and everything's already ready to go to be automated, and then I just would switch my control voltage modulation input sources to do for each song. Would be like, sometimes it was like this LFO, sometimes it's my mod can. I always leave like one output open, so if I'm doing stuff live, I can improv and change things on the fly and have the effects be automated also in time with the system, so everything's kind of working together. It's not just happening haphazardly. But yeah, that's where the heart of the sequencing happens. So this is doing a lot of the melodic sequencing, the ModCan touch sequencer here. This is four gate outputs and then 4 CV outputs. And this is nice because I can basically store 32 full songs in this. And the way that I like to use is more performance. I don't like it to just play a song. So what I have is I have some patterns that play in sort of different quantized modes. I have some modes where I've set up sequences and I can kind of just perform them on the fly because I don't want stuff to just play out. I'd rather just kind of let things evolve and then let me do kind of the changes. So that's I kind of loosely, song by song, have these patterns stored in here, and these kind of trigger the, when I'm doing more melodic based stuff, it's with the braids and the shapeshifter. They kind of do more of the harmonies and that sort of thing. And then the rest of the stuff is basically sampler-based control sources. You've got the effects section here using the 2 RT60s from Qubit. Got a make noise Optimix in here. The stereo-triggered sampler, which is a more recent thing that I've gotten. Then this transistent, I don't know how to describe this. The retro, I guess it's retro. Future Retro is the company. Yeah, this module's great for how cheap it is. For those of you who've maybe not checked it out, this has been a great, additional fun layer of adding in some kind of, well, not that one, but number 4. Let's see. Oh yeah, we should be hearing something, but let me see if I do this. Let's see here.
Drum samples. And you can do drastic manipulations of these samples. It's a very
So if I do,
for drums, exactly.
so what I'm doing is I've taken my kick drum and I've multed my kick drum, and I've even multed this out. So I've multed this out to another mult, and I'm triggering the transistor at the same time. So every time you hear the kick, it's adding this layer of extra sort of animation, so it's not so stagnant. And then I've also multed it out to an actual analog kick drum, which is the BD808 from Tip Top. So I can turn that out. You don't hear it, but I bring it back in. You have that nice low. So I work a lot in layering, I love taking sounds that, I'll build. It's very much a sound design approach. Working as a sound designer,
Right.
I have a very sound designer's approach where, when I'm designing sounds, I design things in layers. I think of like low, mid to high frequencies, and then I build those layers up. So I'm doing basically the same things I would do in the computer, but I'm doing them with the modulars, you can see.
There's really nothing worse than listening to modular stuff and knowing exactly what they're using.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
oh God, okay. Yeah. Right.
Totally.
Whatever it is, or even make noise stuff, you can tell that shit from a mile away.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So I mean, that's how my approach has always been. It's been like working in layers and textures, and then, multing. As you could see, I mult out a lot of the signals, like the percussion signals, and then process those in layers, and then process how they're being played as well, whether I'm removing or adding or clustering, multiplying the signal, dividing the signal, the gates. It's the process is basically the same, no matter if I'm in the audio domain or in the sequencing domain. But it's been a lot of fun doing that. And I'm trying to see what I've got in here other than just control sources. I think that's about it from the Mysteron, and then got the a bunch of clock dividers. I've got a couple of rotating clock dividers to just divide stuff, and then the QCD to multiplier, or, you know, pretty much I'm sure that you probably look at my system and be like, yeah, I've got all this stuff. You know,
Exactly.
I'm not
That's
really,
the thing, man.
I'm not really using anything special. Oh, I always carry one of these. If you guys play live shows, I'm sure you guys have seen these. This is, it's just a little, let me turn this on. So, when I play shows, there's always something that goes wrong. You know, there's dozens of things go wrong. So a lot of times I have to figure out a way to quickly diagnose a problem. So sometimes I check things just to check signals to make sure a module is working. I'll be tracing things to figure out where the problem is. I always bring one of these, like, this is the Division 6 little LED reader, but it tells you just quickly, you know, you plug it anywhere in your system to make sure something's working or not. It's a really nice way to just check things, because things will go wrong when you perform with these. I've pretty much had problems happen pretty much every performance I've played. And the more crazy things that you try to do, the more problems that seem to arise. At least it has been that way in my case. So I always just keep one of these around just to quickly diagnose things. And it's because I know a lot of people ask me why I had these in my system to check certain things, to make sure things are working and stuff. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think that's pretty much it. You know, there's not really much to it. It's just my weird way of working. Like, the addition of these two new samplers definitely changed my sound, I would say, drastically within the last 5-6 months. Now I'm able to bring a lot more of my own personal sounds that I've designed, and field recordings and things taking that are, you know, outside from the outside world into the modular environment, and play them and incorporate them into the setup, which has been a big thing for me. But yeah.